Sound the recruiting cannons. The Badgers basketball team has got a commitment on the way. Let's talk about it on today's Locked On Badgers. Let's go.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, Badger fans? Happy weekend. Thank you for joining us, whether you're doing it live, whether you're watching it later, whatever it is. Thank you. We haven't had one of these in a minute, right? Or we've been able to sound the cannons for the Badgers basketball team, but let's do it. Will Garlock is committed to the Badgers, just committed to Greg Gard in the 25 class. That makes it 2 in that 2025 class. We're going to talk a little bit about Will Garlock, what this class kind of looks like, what they still need to add, and what his game could potentially be for the Badgers. But listen, everybody gets the cannons. Let's go.
Fire the recruiting cannons. Another one is headed to Madison on Wisconsin.
All right, let's talk about who Will Garlock is to start with. Will Garlock, 6'10". I think he's 6'11"-ish now. I think he's a little bigger. His listed height, at least I think I was looking on 247. I look on all the sites, but his listed height was 6'10", 215. I think he's more like 6'11", a little bit bigger than that. He's a center coming out of Middletown. Other offers from Middleton, sorry. Other offers from Iowa, Marquette, Penn State, Virginia Tech. It's funny, I say Middletown because I've been in Connecticut and we have a Middletown. But coming out of Middleton, Wisconsin in the 2025 class, composite 3-star, pretty highly ranked 3-star when you look at the composite recruiting rankings. Of note, he does have a broken ankle. He suffered that a while ago, and I was kind of curious when that happened. I remember I was texting some of the other Badger fans and some of the guys. I was like, golly, man, I wonder if that puts an end to some of the big offers, if it would scare people off or not. So that broken ankle, it sounds like he's on pace to play in the fall. So it sounds like it's coming along. Listen, that's not nothing, right? When you're dealing with ankles, knees, lower body stuff with big men. I'm not saying you don't recruit the kid. I'm just saying file that one away. That's not nothing. But it is what it is. It sounds like from the medical side, they're good with it, that they're okay with where the injury is and where it's progressing to. So let's talk a little bit about the player and the fit. Got some comments in here as well. Kyle Major says, fire the cannons. Zach Bart says, with football official visits, wasn't expecting basketball to be the first ones on the board. That's right. Zach, they're on the board. Let's go. White Marlin, let's effing go. I love it. Darcy Bean, Garlock the Warlock, a witch at the rim. I love that. Listen, if he becomes like a defensive maestro, there's going to be all sorts of Warlock memes and all sorts of Warlock posters in the fan section. It's going to be incredible. Bo Dragon, my research shows a 7-foot dude that weighs as much as a ghost. He weighs 215. I think he's like 220. And by the way, Bo, like that's modern basketball. There's a lot of 7-footers out of high school that are coming in at like 220. What was Nolan Winter coming in, right? What was John Lure coming in? What was Nate Reavers coming in? Like that's kind of modern basketball. You don't get a lot of 7-foot, 6'11", 250-pound kids coming out of high school anymore. And if you do, they go to Purdue. And if that guy comes out, he goes to Purdue. So yeah, this is kind of modern basketball. Peace says 7-footer with a high motor. Daltrey says basketball's in quiet for a bit. Not sure how much this moves the meter. Here's the thing. So I need to dig up some film. I'm working on digging up. And Peace asks if he's a Joe Krabanoff recruit. He is. Krabanoff gets a lot of the bigs. That's kind of his area of specialty. So I've been able to watch some film. There's some film available publicly on YouTube. Watching some of that. I'm trying to dig into a little bit more film. Here's the thing. He moves pretty well. He's not a plotter. He's pretty mobile. He looks pretty quick on his feet. The body is good. It's lean. It's well cut. It's 6'11" with pretty long levers. I think there's a lot there defensively that could probably help the team, right? And what is this Badgers team needed desperately for years? Like, I'm not saying Will Garlock is a star, but what has this team needed desperately for years? It's needed a guy who can add some athleticism and mobility in the post, who can contest shots at the rim, right? What were we terrible at last year? Well, a couple things, right? But pick and roll defense was horrific. Some of that was on Chucky Epron. Some of that was on Max Klesman. We've talked about that. They got stuck on screens. There was a bit of a stubbornness with his coaching staff at times, continually fighting pick and rolls the same way over and over and over again. But there was also an inability on the backside for Steven Crowl to contest the shot, right? He just got eaten up a little bit last year. And you could use somebody there that's a little potential, a little more mobile, maybe a little better with quickness, a little better defensively at the rim. This kid brings some of that, I think. I think he gives you some defensive ability, some clips offensively, pretty soft hands. That's not a given for every big. The clips I was watching, he was getting dump offs, bounce passes, pocket passes, a couple more over the shoulder catches. He was able to catch those, go right up. A lot of players don't have that ability. Looks like he has some touch around the rim, some post moves, a couple putbacks. I need to see more offensively. I don't think this isn't Davion Hand, or not Davion. This isn't Kai Rogers necessarily, but I like the athletic base sets here. I like the size. I think he has the body type to be a good defensive big, a good defensive 7-footer who can contest shots, who can get after it, who quite frankly might be able to be a little more mobile on those pick and roll situations that ate us up last year. This feels like the type of guy we've been clamoring for to augment Steven Crowl. Now, by the time he gets here, Crowell's going to be out the door, so that scenario is kind of moot. We were asking for a more senior version of this in the portal that could play right away. But this does feel like the type of guy who can come in and be a bit of a mobile big and protect the rim a little bit. You need that. You need that in basketball. And if the offense comes around, here's the other thing with bigs. Bigs are hard to project. There's a lot of bigs coming out of high school that are 3-star guys and they add offense and they become really good players. I think Garlock has the hands and it looks like he has the mobility to develop into a pretty good offensive player if he puts the work in. I got to see more film, right? I'm working on getting a little more film, but I like the defensive upside. I like the body type. You've needed a guy like this. I think he can block shots at the rim a little bit better. And that fits a major hole in this roster, right? Ultimately, you also just need to get a couple big guys and continue developing that pipeline. Big guys are like offensive linemen. They're hard to evaluate at times. Outside of the elite guys, right, they're hard to evaluate. So, again, I'm waiting on a little more film, but I wanted to talk about a little bit my gut reaction. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back with your comments, plus anything else you guys want to get to tonight. Saturday night, let's go. Whatever else you want to talk about. Football, most important players on the football team, biggest recruiting targets out there still, biggest frustration, football or basketball. Lay it on me, man. Let's have an honest conversation today. Let's do it. Today's episode is brought to you by our great friends over at Gametime. I've said it before. We're going to have some opportunities to get together as a fan base, have some fun, enjoyment. Don't buy tickets like a caveman. Like, buy tickets like a civilized person in the technology age. And that's why you need Gametime. That's what Gametime's there for. Get the best inventory, right? No clickety-clacketing, looking at 23 different websites. No. That's silly. They have the best inventory, the best prices, right? They have the quickest turnaround. So you buy it, you're done. The logistics are simple. Pictures of the seats, so you know exactly what that sight line to Daniel Freitag driving into the rim and yamming over whoever produced version of a monster is this year. Okay. All of that on Gametime. Find the tickets to your venues, your entertainment. Go with your buddies, gift it to your friends, whatever it is, Gametime. Download Gametime app today. Use code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Use code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Let's get tickets together. You, me, whoever's in the comment section. Let's get tickets together. Let's go have fun. Let's do it over at Gametime. Okay, let's get y'all's comments and see, where are you guys at on this? Excited? Not excited? Meh? Whatever you want to talk about. Let's get that today. But I like this pickup because I think it fits a hole that this team has desperately needed. He's going to have to develop, but that's a lot of big men. All right, let's get comments here. Let's see what we got. This is from Trevor Doyle. Please, God, can he block a shot at the rim? Yeah, that has been a 2-year frustration, right? Who was the last Badgers basketball player you're like, that dude contested at the rim really well? Like, I'm putting myself on the spot here. I mean, Nate Reavers tried sometimes. Yes, I think he will give us something there, Trevor. Thank you for chatting in. I think he has a little bit of that ability to. I think he's got more mobility and defensive versatility than what we have on the roster right now. If the projections work, if he keeps going. Mitch Ames, good friend of the show, says he's big and he's in state. Let's go. Sometimes it's as simple as that. 2 Badgers in this class from in state. You obviously got Will Garlock, who we just picked up, and then you got Zach Kinzinger, the 6'3", 6'4" shooting guard. He's been putting up pretty good film too. So you're bringing in kind of a little bit more mobile big, who I think Garlock can shoot a little bit too. Like, he's not a stiff. And then you're bringing in Kinzinger to provide some offensive punch. 2 guys from in-state. I think they need to they need to continue to be aggressive in this class, right? They got another spot open. I think they could use a difference maker. They've been in on Kai Rogers, the in-state big man. That feels like a recruitment that's getting away from them, unfortunately. And then they've been in on Davian Hanna, too, the in-state 4-star kind of combo guard, shooting guard, small forward, 4-star player. Those are the recruitments Greg Gard sadly doesn't typically seem to win, and he needs to win some of those. Okay, let's keep going here. Daltrey sounds like he needs time to develop. Not an easy task nowadays with the portal. Yeah, it's interesting. I think here's the thing, though, and this is just thoughts I have with in-state kids. In-state kids give you a little portal insurance to some degree, right? They're probably a little more bought in on the program, the culture. They have more ties to this area. Those are the players, if you're going to take developmental players, it's usually the in-state guys I would take and say, I'm not so stressed about him in the portal because he's probably going to stick around. He's got connections here. It's probably not the end of the world if he has to take 2 years to develop and get on the court. And I'm not saying he's going to. I'm just saying in theory, and that bodes true for football and basketball, right? You get those players, and if they're from in-state, a lot of times they bleed Badger red, right? They've grown up here on it. So I think they're a little more immune to the portal stuff, but it's a good point, Daltrey. It's definitely a good point. P says, get him to Culver's. Yeah, let's go. Neza says he needs a haircut. I kind of like the crazy hair. Someone else in here said he looks kind of like Sideshow Bob. I like it. He looks a little bit like Robin Lopez, right? The other Lopez. You want a little crazy in your big. You want a little big hair and big attitude and big physicality. So I'm kind of okay with that. Brewers Badgers says, will at most be a bench piece? I don't know. It's really tough to say. I personally need to watch more. I like the way he looks like he moves on the court. I think he has mobility. I think he has the right type of body type that we're looking for. And I've seen him shoot. I've seen him shoot a little bit in clips, and the jumper doesn't look bad. It doesn't look terrible. I think there's pieces here to work with, and I kind of like the fit. I'm going to be honest. I kind of like the fit here. Mr. October says, late to the cannon party, but you are always welcome, Mr. October. Any talk whether or not this might mean we're out of the mix for Kai Rogers? So I haven't heard great things with Kai Rogers in a while. Now, I haven't really dug into it, but if you were betting on him to be a Badger, I would hedge those bets, unfortunately. I haven't heard a ton of optimism there with Rogers. Maybe, we'll see. But that feels like one that the Badgers had to try to land early. A couple more here. Oh, Jared Berggren as the last really good shot blocker for the Badgers. Yeah, that's possible. Berggren definitely would challenge. He would definitely challenge shots. White Marlin says can't teach size. He has a ways to go, but I see the vision. Yeah, at some level, like you got to continue to add you got to continue to add players like this so you can keep your developmental pipeline going. He's got physical tools. I know Badger fans are really going to be bummed when this cycle ends up and you don't get a Kai Rogers and a Davian Hanna, and I get that. But I think this kid has some size and mobility, and as a big man, those are good building blocks, right? I'm not trying to blow smoke, or I'm waiting on. I think I got a little more film I can look at this, so I want to just kind of do gut reaction and see where y'all are at. But I think there's pieces here, and I think there's tools here for a big man, and I think the fit is really something this Badgers team has been needing for a while. They just haven't had kind of this mobile big in a couple years, so I'm willing to see. Tyler Strieber says, my knock on Gard is that players don't develop under him compared to Bo. Whatever a kid is as a freshman is probably what he's going to be. Hope this kid is good as a freshman. I don't know if that's fully true. Like, I know people don't give him full credit for Johnny Davis. And I hear you, Tyler. I've had frustrations as well. But I feel like Johnny Davis certainly took that big jump. Now, a lot of that is Johnny Davis was a dog, right? And he had internal and development that he was going to make happen, but you also got to give Gard a little bit of credit for that. He certainly put Davis in positions offensively that he changed his scheme around a little bit, right? He'll put Davis in positions where he could flourish his sophomore year. So I think there's some development there. I think other players have developed as well. Like, I don't know, but Bo Ryan was a savant at it. So is he as good as Bo? No. Yeah, I think you're totally right there, Tyler. Okay, keep going here. Much more comments here. Dick Trickle says Garlock will be a poor man's Crowl. I think you're completely different players. I don't think he's going to be as skilled offensively. I don't think he's going to be the passer. Probably not the shooter, but I think he might be a little better defensively when it develops, would be my guess. Mitch James says his recruitment probably would have picked up if he could have played AAU ball this summer. Listen, this is a dude with pretty good offers, right? I feel like there's a lot of trepidation, and maybe I'm kind of the high man here, but Iowa, Marquette, Virginia Tech, Penn State, like this is not a two-star big man with offers from Valpo and Central Missouri, although Valpo's not a bad basketball school, but like he had really legitimate, solid, big time offers. This is a player who people, it's funny. When I was coaching a little bit, I was at a high school AAU tournament scouting, right? And this coach that was next to me pointed to a player and said, "Is that a D1 player?" I was like, "I don't know." And he looked at me, he said, "Absolutely it is, because that frame is something you can't find." And I said, "Oh, okay." And yeah, that was a D1 player. Turns out she committed not that long after that to a D1 school. This is on the women's side, but the same idea holds true. Like you have to find a certain frame in the post, in the front court, right? And those are just hard to find, which is why those players become D1 players. Garlock is a 6'10", 6'11", 220-pound guy with mobility, good hands, and a decent-looking stroke. That's a D1 player. Now you got to develop him, right? Now you got to get him on campus, and you got to prove you can develop him. But there's enough pieces there for this to be a good piece of a Badgers rotation on a good team. I firmly believe that. Now, will they develop him? I'm not sure. Some of that's on Garlock too, right? I mentioned Johnny Davis. Johnny Davis was self-motivated. He was a dog. I don't know if Garlock is or not. I hope he is, because if he is, he has enough physical tools to be a good Big Ten center, at least a rotational guy. And that's what you need right now. You need a couple rotation guys, and you need a couple stars, right? I don't think Garlock's a star. He's not that guy. I don't think. I would listen. Nobody was. I want to caveat it. I don't think he's going to be Frank Kaminsky, but nobody was thinking Frank Kaminsky would be a star before he committed either, right? That wasn't in the conversation. Sometimes players surprise us, and you got to give them the chance to surprise you. Just my opinion. Bo Drake and John Lure used to block a lot of shots. Yeah. Lure was awesome. Bo said, man, he was good. Yeah, man, John Lure was a friggin' stud. I think Badger fans forget how good he was. He played in the NBA like 6-7 years, got a pretty big contract with the Pistons. He was a baller, man. Absolute baller. Let's get some more questions in here. Double X says, why can't the Badgers get a high 4-star kid? I don't get it. Yeah. As much as I like Garlock, and I do, like the Badgers have to hit a more high-end talent. Daniel Freitag was last year. That's a big one. He wasn't a 4-star guy. I think he was underrated. But you have to keep hitting on high-end talent. Otherwise, this thing goes nowhere. You have to have stars in basketball, all right? You have to have a star or two. So I agree with you there, Double X. Let's keep going here. Daltreed says, believe with Ryan. Let's go, Daltreed. I'm just a little surprised that there's so much pushback, right? This is not a bad looking prospect at all, and it's a pretty decent offer list. He's ranked pretty highly by 247. I mean, make that what you will, but I like the athletic pieces here, and I like the size, and I think he's going to be a rotational piece. Now, I'll be straight up. The ankle injury stresses me out a little bit because I am always super wary with big men and lower body injuries. We've seen basketball, we've seen many careers get felled in basketball with ankles, knees, microfracture, right? That worries me a little bit. And ankles are one of those problematic things. They're obviously fine with it, and I hope to goodness gracious he's good, but he doesn't have any other injury concerns, but that does stress me out a tiny bit. Let's see. Mitch James says Marquette's a big-time offer. Yeah, Tim Olson says I wouldn't call Virginia Tech, Penn State big-time offers. Like Power 4 legitimate offers. Yeah, they're not Kentucky, Duke, Arizona. Like, I get it. Texas, whatever. But they're Power 4 offers from major conferences. Again, and he had a Marquette offer. I'm not trying to sell you on his stock or not. I'm just saying, like, that's a pretty decent offer list. It's totally doable. And it's an offer list that you should win, by the way. But any more comments in here? Jan Volk says the offer list gives me hope. Yeah, I think, listen, it's not the be all end all. But it's also possible. Listen, it's also possible if he doesn't hurt his ankle, like more offers come in. It's certainly possible. Then he gets in the AAU circuit and that offer list gets a little bigger. I'm not saying it does or doesn't, but I'm telling you, mobile kind of 6'10", 6'11" guys that look like they have some touch and good hands, those are players D1 programs take chances on. This is not Evan Anderson. Okay. This is not, I'm trying to think of other kind of more plot. No disrespect to Evan Anderson, but this is not that. There's some tools here that can develop. And I kind of like the fit because, again, the Badgers have needed this guy for a while. All right, with that, anything else? Any other football stuff? Anything else you want to talk about? We did a show. I think this is an interesting question. Who are the 3 most important players on the Badgers football team? The 3, 4, 5, whatever. And by important, I don't mean best. The 3 players that this season hinges on, right? The three players that you cannot lose to injury because of depth, because they're stars. My initial list, I went Tyler Van Dyke because it's the quarterback. I don't think this team goes anywhere without him having a great year. I went Rico Holman because he's a star in the cornerback, and I don't know exactly what you have behind him. I'm a little worried about it. And then I went Renfro, right? We saw what happened last year without Renfro. The offensive line couldn't produce a center. And by the way, we still don't really have a backup center. Like, that's still a thing we don't really have, unfortunately, that we know for sure we can turn to. So I went Rico, Renfro, and Van Dyke. Quarterback, center, and our top cornerback. P says Renfro. Yeah, I'm all here for that. October, Wohler. See, the thing with Wohler's a total star and he's irreplaceable, but I think we have more depth at safety. Rico is also a star and irreplaceable, and I think we have less depth at cornerback. That's how I broke that tie, Mr. October, but you are not wrong, man. We lose Wohler. I mean, that's the heartbeat of that defense. Daltrey says quarterback and 2 on the line. I heard this is a good one with Tyler. Renfro, Jaheim Thomas, and Wohler. Tyler's got on a big Jaheim Thomas here. I can see that. Dick Trickle says Tretch. The Tretch hype continues. Bo Dragon says if Van Dyke is Mordecai 2.0, it's going to be a horrible season. And I guess if it's that, you just turn to lock, right? And I don't know if there's such a big gulf between Van Dyke and Lock. I really don't. Which by the way, I think that means I'm probably slightly lower on Tyler Van Dyke than the Badger consensus, and I think I'm slightly higher on Braden Locke than the Badger consensus is probably where I'm at. Bo Dragon says they won't turn to Locke. I think they will. Mark D says Ches. Ches is a good one, unless the freshman running backs are ready, right? I hope Ches stays healthy, man. I really do. Trevor Doyle says James Thompson Jr., Renfro, and Jack Nelson. Yeah, Thompson Jr. is a good one, right? Because, again, that defensive line is really, really lacking quality-proven depth. If he goes down, that's a tough one to replace for sure. I love the Nelson one, right? That's something Rajiv had said was Jack Nelson as well, so I love that inclusion. Neza says TVD throws picks, Locke throws passes too weakly. Well, that's a pessimist performance there. Yeah, both those things are true. At times, right? Although, again, I think Locke got stronger this offseason. Brady Collins has talked to that. And TVD has also had seasons where he hasn't thrown a lot of picks. So we're going to wrap it there. Appreciate y'all. I really have a bunch of good stuff coming up next week. I think we got potentially Clint Cosgrove coming up. I think we got Logan Powell coming up on the show. I think we got Raheem Stroud coming up on the show. Samuel Leteju's coming up on the show. High school coaches come up on the show. I want to get there's a lot coming up, and I really can't wait to get into it. Really do appreciate all y'all as we continue chopping it up with Badgers basketball football. But big news today, Will Garlock commits. I like it. I think they need to still land a star somewhere, but I like the tools. I'm higher on it than I think a lot of people are, but I would suggest give it time and let's see. Anyway, on Wisconsin, and we will talk later.